Hello, guys. I'm back. Today, I did not think I would be making a video like this, coming back onto the internet, but here we are. We need to talk about what's currently going on here in my homeland, known as Ireland. So, there is currently a national protest going on at the moment over a energy crisis, right? And it's basically what started off as the Irish government proposing to increase carbon taxes in the sake of some energy crisis and to, I don't know, retrofit for households and for fuel allowance, such and such. There's a clip I'm going to play in a moment which will encapsulate all of that. But farmers basically came out and said, and business owners, they basically all came out and said, no, we can't afford to pay these costs anymore. They're going too high, right?
Teachta Dala, obviously the government has defended not cancelling the upcoming scheduled carbon tax increase on the basis that it's needed for things like the aforementioned retrofitting to try and help people heat their homes and so on. An ESRI review recently found that there is very little difference in the energy consumption between homes with different BER ratings. That the average energy consumption is similar for an A-rated house and a G-rated house in practice. So is that not a major hole in the strategy here, that the government is increasing the cost of fuel at the time there's an energy crisis going on, and it seems in practice it's not actually going to help people, even if they do retrofit their house, to reduce their costs in terms of energy consumption?
No, I mean, I think first of all, it is the impact of it in May would very little impact on home heating and so forth. And the more important point is that the resources that are garnered from this enables the retrofitting program, and up to $500 million.
I'm calling into question the.
But I don't agree with
the efficacy of the.
No, I think it's very effective, very, very effective in terms of energy efficiency. Talk to anybody who've had their houses retrofitted. Talk to people who've had solar panels on their roofs. They all testify to the reduction of bills. The most important point of the retrofitting program is reducing bills, and it does reduce bills, and it's a very, very effective program.
So do you contest the ESRI?
I haven't finished.
Sorry, but just to keep on the topic, though,
I'm going to keep on the topic.
Sure.
If you let me finish. And you should read Eamon Ryan's column in the Irish Times today. There's an article on it, and I think he takes strong issue with the ESRI's perspective on the retrofitting program, but also it's used for farming. I mean, if you look at, for example, the acre scheme, which is environmentally sustainable farming, about 1.5 billion program, 60% of that is exchequer funded, and it's the carbon tax revenues going into that. And then if you look at the fuel poverty, one of the reasons we've been able to expand and increase fuel allowance is because of the carbon tax. And so we brought in all those on working family payments in the last budget, an extra 50,000 families. And none of that would be possible if you took out what is a key revenue resource. And I know the opposition played a popular card here, and they're suggesting you could suspend. It's legislatively provided for out till 2030. In my view, it ring fences funding for vital initiatives such as retrofitting, such as fuel poverty, and environmentally sustainable farming as well. Up to 55,000 farmers participate in the acres scheme. And you take away all of that resource, and I think we'd be in a much poorer position for the future of the country.
Can I just say, firstly, I mean, this is an issue that the united opposition isn't terribly united on at all, because when we took the private members' motion in the Dáil last week, I know many opposition parties saying don't touch the carbon tax and understanding the benefit of it. Secondly, I'd make the point in agreement with Taoiseach, one of the ways forward in terms of building economic and energy resilience is to get ourselves off fossil fuels. And the idea that you have a carbon tax that is helping fuel that transition is going to have a real and meaningful benefit. If we don't want to constantly see Europe and Ireland in this position where decisions taken far from here are having a real impact on people's pockets and our economy, we have to continue to support the funding streams that are helping that transition.
Okay, Brian.
And then people basically came out and said afterward that, now it's about how the oils are basically coming in from the Strait of Hormuz, and how basically the US-Iran war, and how Iran is not allowing international trade of oils and exports and all the rest of that, has affected us. And basically that's part of why we're having this crisis, and why taxes are increasing and blah, blah, blah. No. Basically, that's all disinformation. So forget that. Any bot online that's saying that, or anyone online that's saying that, is lying to you. Okay? Most of Ireland's imported oils do not, in fact, come from Iran. I would be surprised if any of them. A lot of the oils that come in are mixed, typically. We have Green Energy, we have Maxol, we have all these suppliers and importers that come into Ireland, and I'm going to even show a list of them on screen in a moment, or even now. I can show them now. But I'm telling you now, the Ireland, from what I know, doesn't really list where we get our Iranian oil. I'm sure we get some from the Strait of Hormuz, but not a lot. We're kind of similar to the UK in that manner. But yeah, no, that's just a lie. So don't believe that propaganda for a second. And another thing I want to add here is that the government and how they responded to the whole thing has caused basically an escalation where now more people in general, especially as aside from when the protest had started, which was on Tuesday, which, by the way, the farmers and the men, they warned the government that this protest was going to start on Tuesday, only a week prior to that, because of basically the increased costs and no longer being able to afford such increased said costs, because prices were just becoming too inflated and there was too much of a net loss to keep up, right? So people were just essentially going out of business, in other words, is what that means.
Yes, there's one thing you know is in a room. You know it's tired, hard-working, worn-out people. Because we are dragging ourselves through the muck to make a living. Not to make a profit, to make a living. And I see a lot of people in this room that would have made it through the 08 crash. And anybody that made it through that crash and still has their business is a seriously good business person, man or woman. And we are not going to lie down and let this, a war thousands of miles away, bring us to the ground. We have a government that will wave any flag bar an Irish flag, okay? They're waving free Palestine flags. Well, by the time we're finished with them, they'll be waving free Dublin flags, because we are locking her down. The long and short of it is, every road you drove on to get here belongs to us. Every school you passed belongs to us, every public hospital. We built this country and we built everything in it. Everybody that's sick and needs healthcare, needs help, we pay for it. And we are treated like we're scum and we're criminals. The working people are the people who run this country. I am absolutely fed up of begging. We work so hard, because if you work in this country, it was said that if you could make a living and make a business work in Ireland, you would be a millionaire in any other country. It's that hard to do business in Ireland, okay? Now the letters have been sent in from all over the place. There's requests going in. The government are ignoring us. The government are awash with money. We want green diesel, no more than €1. We want white diesel back to 170. And I want your granny and your grandfather and your mother to be able to afford a drum of kerosene, okay? So this is it. We have to move. We're all together. We'll be on the motorways. we won't be blocking hard shoulders, and if the government want to lock us up, by jizz they'll have to build another prison because they haven't got room for the people they have.
But basically, the government, essentially what they did in response to farmers protesting is they basically said it was wrong, not a peaceful protest, we were blocking emergency transports, all the rest of this. And there was a lot of video footage going around there, there's already a lot of evidence, and there was, with the evidence shown, we were not blocking, by majority anyways, we were definitely not blocking emergency transports, as shown in most evidential video footage taking clips of those days of when it was all occurring, both Tuesday and Wednesday mostly, and when it was announced on Wednesday in the response from the Taoiseach, Micheál Martin, which I will also show then. Basically, when they reprimanded and called it wrong, these protests, and said that they were a wrong form of protest, even though they were mostly peaceful, and almost trying to antagonize and title it in a way that it didn't seem peaceful, when that was also a lie. A lot more people came out realizing this, and a lot more people came to protest.
The protests at the moment are wrong. To prevent mobility, to prevent people from accessing livelihoods, medical appointments, disrupting day-to-day activities in the manner that has happened is wrong and is a wrong form of protest. And in my view, it's not conducive to cohesion within our society or to resolving issues in a satisfactory manner.
And now then the government, now I will be honest, there was some words about a meeting or something, and that didn't go well, because it was supposed to happen on Thursday, and the farmers showed up to this meeting. I think it was at the Parliament, Leinster House, and basically they were refused entry, basically saying they were not on list.
We sat with the TVs in Galway yesterday, John Dole and myself and Noel. We sat twice. One TD was on the phone to the Taoiseach, second TD was on the phone to the Taoiseach. We were told Teachta Dala would be the representative from Dublin. We got on the train today. When we got as far as the door, our names aren't on the list. We were here to tell the truth. We were here to represent the people, try and get everything across the line. That hasn't happened.
We're not going to let the people in Galway down that stood by us by the last few days, and they've waited up day and night to be represented by other people in that room in there. So let's just hope they get a good resolution.
Just on another note of that, we came here today as a voice for the people of Ireland.
They were refused entry by the Parliament, they were refused entry by the Leinster House, and basically there was no meeting held. There was also words said about how they were meeting up with someone else on some other part of farming committee or something such and such. Basically, I don't know much about that, but they were not part of this protest, and they did not actually represent the interests of the majority of the people, so they were probably some, people there just to fill in the boots of basically these people, and probably lie, or be used to lie about such and such. But anyways, most people were catching on to these con artists and what they were doing. So then it escalated again. Come Friday, on Thursday it was already said, in Wednesday and Thursday it was already said that they were escalating because the Taoiseach was escalating by getting the Gardaí against the people and threatening on Wednesday and Thursday to send out the army, and then there was footage on Thursday of the army being sent out, and then on Friday the Gardaí and the army collectively took an effort to basically remove protesters from Cork, where they were basically stopping any transport from going in or out of the oil refinery or at least most transports. Because I think there was like one vehicle being allowed to passage every once in a while through the oil refinery, but that was about it. But yes, most vehicles were stopped, not allowed to transport through the oil refinery. And then the Gardaí came. They stood there into Thursday night. It was like a standoff between them and the people, and then come Friday morning, they basically attacked the protesters. And because protesters try to be peaceful and maintain peace, they were basically just still standing there. They got pepper sprayed, they got beat down, and they were arrested. Some in a worse case than others. Apparently there were also people who were just out there in the open or bystanding who could have also gotten arrested, or people who were just a tractor but were not part of the protest and also were arrested, possibly due to being misconceived as part of the protest over things like having a tractor or something else like that, which was all, of course, wrong. I will show footage of each of what I've basically outlined here to try and fit the narrative of what I'm trying to explain here, but in essence, this is a shit show for basically our Irish government, and just really adds to the fact of how tyrannical and how authoritarian our government truly is.
Members with Mark 9 pepper spray, stand by! Members with Mark 9 pepper spray, stand by! Pepper spray, advance! Come out! Advance! Units, sir.
Fuck off.
Thank you very much. Move back. Move back. Thank you.
Not fucking right what you're doing.
Thank you. Move back, sir. Thank you.
Don't touch me. Don't touch me. Do not fucking touch me.
Thank you.
Move your hands. I get you're doing your job, but that's not right.
Thank you. Thank you. Move back.
Stopping locals getting home.
Thank you.
I'm not moving no more. Fucking joke.
Oh my god, my heart's racing.
Come on, get over here.
That woman guard just said, have you got pepper spray? Fair play to him, it's his fucking tractor, it can't pull out your own vehicle. In a Hada, is that even in fucking Whitegate? Oh my god, I'm shaking.
right to protest peacefully, and we're coming down.
And that's what we're doing.
And we're supporting them.
That's what we're doing, Guard. We're not breaking any laws.
By my superintendent, unless you are a resident in Whitegate and have a reason to be in Whitegate, you will not be allowed.
And we have a reason. We're supporting the protest.
You will not be allowed.
We're bringing supplies to the protest. That's what we're doing.
For all day, folks, you're not coming in, okay?
Why did the guards send us all around the country if they knew that back there in the other routes? Why didn't they say that to us back there? They sent us diverted all different roads, back roads, to come in this way, and they never said at any stage you're not allowed in. So that's only playing games, like that's what gets people annoyed.
I apologise, I can't speak to my colleague.
I know you.
Coming into Saturday now, we're already seeing how our government is sending the Gardaí to Galway. They actually sent them to the Galway port last night, and now to Dublin, O'Connell Street this morning, basically getting protesters out of there. And Galway, from what I've seen, has currently been standing the ground well, but it's not looking good, and the same for O'Connell Street. It's looking dire, and it's looking like it's definitely going to get worse. And this could turn into a civil war. And I have to be honest, I do stand with the Irish people here. I think that the whole system is wrong. I think that carbon tax in Ireland, especially on the diesel and basically on our fuels for vehicles to basically run our engines for said vehicles, I think that is all wrong. I think the excise duty tax as well is wrong. I think the Nora levy tax is wrong as well. The carbon tax is because it is to lower CO2 emissions, which in Ireland, the average count of CO2 emissions, even of recent data such as back in 2023, it's on per annum only upward of 11.2 or so million, 11 to 12 million at least, 11 to 12 million tons. So if you count for that, and that's basically 0.01 billion tons, right? A volcano is 0.1 billion tons when it erupts, and that only typically takes a few minutes when it happens, right? And there's upward of, and I could show data for this. I'll show images on screen of what I'm referencing here as well. But they're typically within a year 50 to 80 or around that volcanic eruptions, right? And basically, when you take something such as that into account, and that's natural occurrences, by the way, and that can escalate or vary significantly in number for those volcanic eruptions, so that data can actually be a lot more. But what I'm trying to say here is that basically Ireland does not emit a lot of CO2, or at least its Irish vehicles per annum, and even comparatively to a singular volcanic eruption, we'd have to emit CO2 from our vehicles the way we do in an average per annum in Ireland, except for upward of nearly or up to a decade. And that's just the maths that is basically there based on what is already evidential. And with that said, excise duty is also a tax that is applied to our diesel and our vehicle fuels for the very reason that it is to help the environment or to prevent environment harm. It's a tax, basically. It's another climate kind of tax, right? Or something just to help the environment. But in reality, it's not exactly doing what it's intending to do. Something like that to help the environment. You think with all the money that's been put towards these taxes, the environment would be perfectly fine now. And because it's such a small nation, we wouldn't really have to worry as much as the other states about inflicting harm on the environment, as I've just elaborated with the metrics of, for example, a volcanic eruption, a natural occurrence thing, which, by the way, is still a small, considerably small thing to affect the environment majority of the time. And you know, these CO2 emissions and everything that people worry about versus people using diesel for their vehicles and everything. But in Ireland, it's not as significant as around the rest of the world, or in a different state like America, for example, or in China. So that will really go to show you how much the government is scamming us and scamming its people and lying to us to our faces, and how much effort the Irish people still put in up to this point in paying these taxes, and why we truly have a right to say we've had enough, and why we're just fed up, right? We need a break. It's not right of us. And the excise duty, we really don't need to be paying that extra for that excise duty, because in reality, as I just said, it's kind of similar to carbon tax. It's just basically on environmental harm, and we've already paid more than enough, way more than enough. And even when the Taoiseach and Taoiseach go on about how a lot of this money is going to fuel allowance, which, by the way, is not where you think the money will go, because you think the money will go to help the environment. This just proves that it doesn't. But not only that, it also proves that they're probably lying about where a lot of that money goes, because reality, I don't know if you know this, not everyone can get on the fuel allowance. If you are working full time, you can't go on a fuel allowance. If you're living in a house with someone who works full time, you can't get a fuel allowance. There are restrictions set where you have to meet a certain criteria if you are to try and get in the fuel allowance and apply for that, because otherwise you're not going to get it. So a lot of the money that comes from these taxes would typically go to something like the surplus or the salary of our TDs. And honestly, the surplus as of 2025, or according to the Taoiseach Simon Harris, as I'll show on screen here from the Irish Parliament site, it was around 12.5 or so billion euro. And that is an all-time high. That is outrageously high. That is crazy high. And our TD's salaries are typically upward of 200,000 euro or more. It just, the list goes on, right? And you kind of tell where a lot of this money's going. A lot of it's being funded. Like even with Ukraine. Ukraine, only a couple of weeks ago, got 40 million just for supports or whatever. It wasn't even really that elaborate on. It's just to support Ukraine. And it's just like, what really is the purpose of what you're doing? Like, where is this money actually going? Why not prioritize it on the Irish people in the cases where it's more needed than ever now before? Like, look at what's going on. You could clearly see how the whole system is just falling apart, and how our government is clearly not being a competent government to try and fix it. And it almost seems like they're trying to incite a civil war, incite violence on their own people. You can see how wrong it truly is, right? And even just the Nora levy tax. Why should Nora levy tax be taken off? Let me tell you why. The Nora levy tax is a tax applied to diesel and vehicle fuel cars in Ireland, right? Irish vehicles typically, or mainly, where the Nora levy tax, it's for basically the money that comes from that tax. The tax money is to go towards oil or supporting oil services, but those oils do not supply or go back to vehicle fuels or things such as diesel. Those oils are basically purposed for other things, for other uses. So the money that goes to those oil services has nothing to do with Irish vehicles in Ireland. So it should not be applied to Irish vehicles in the first place. So that is also wrong and not something that people have gotten into. Another piece of corruption of our system, another flaw set within our system, set by our parliament, set by our government, set by the members that be in office, and set by these corrupt politicians. It's all wrong. It is all wrong. It is set up by snakes, the Taoiseach, Taoiseach, and of course others such as our ministers like Jim O'Callaghan. Jim O'Callaghan is clearly not doing a good job as the Justice Minister at the moment with all the crime that goes on in Ireland, almost as if it's seemingly intentional, because there has been a lot of crime recorded in Dublin at the moment, but when there's not a lot of people around or protesting, especially Irish people, funnily enough, crime just happens to occur, and a lot of these cases end up getting suspended. Like, these people don't actually get sentenced to prison a lot of the time. Like, even with the one guy, the one migrant, apparently, who he apparently, I hate to even say this, right? He sexually assaulted a 10-year-old girl, which, by the way, we're not fucking forgetting that. But he sexually assaulted a 10-year-old Irish girl, and it was back in the hotel. Hold on, let me get this up real quick. So there was this 10-year-old Irish girl that was sexually assaulted. I hope this video doesn't get taken down if I say it, but to be specific, she was raped by a migrant when she was taken back with the migrant, who was apparently under Tusla care. Tusla is a Irish government-funded and supported service, but she basically somehow ended up with this migrant. Migrant took her back to the City West Hotel in Dublin, which, by the way, over 100 million taxpayers' money was spent on, and it was turned into an IPAS centre when the Irish people, by majority, did not agree to this decision, but it happened anyways, and she was sexually assaulted at this centre, which caused a riot and a protest against these actions and the failure of the government to not to basically uphold the protection of these children, these Irish children, because this should never happen, right? It was all wrong. It was all absolutely wrong. And when that happened, basically things had escalated. But this migrant, while they were arrested and such, there was never really anything heard about it again, or so I didn't see anything again. I don't think he was even sentenced to prison. Apparently, he already had a deportation order on him, but he never left the country. He was like 6 months old at this point or something, and it was just crazy. And this guy had a record as well, even in other nations, of committing crimes, similar crimes to what he committed here, and it was just disgusting. But anyways, our government is completely incompetent, completely tyrannical towards its Irish people mainly, and our Taoiseach, who is pretty much, it goes back to him, right? Micheál Martin. He is coming up to be the president of the European Union soon, so I think it should also concern Europe nearly as much, if not as much, as it concerns Ireland already, with how he runs his policies and how he runs just a system in general, given the ideals he's willing to practice and such and such. And I'd also encourage people to look into just other things as well to consider. Like, there are Irish whistleblowers coming out at the moment saying about how that the insides of Ireland, the people that be in power and stuff, the reason they're so communistic and so corrupt and it's snake-like with their behavior and their policies and such is because of who's controlling them. And people are coming out saying that, oh, well, maybe there's British intelligence like the MI5 controlling them or something. And apparently some of that could be true. But there's also something going on in the UK at the moment where the people in control in the UK are apparently under the influence of this society known as the Fabian Society, which are all about communism and these certain weird ideals which lead down to a path of this corruption and a lot of these ideas that are being practiced and seen today as of right now. And because the UK and Ireland are quite similar in this manner, it seems like theoretically, hypothetically, even dare I say, based, it's not that far-fetched to put the dots together and think, oh, maybe this is what's really going on. And I'll leave a few links down for you to decide on that and think about that and contemplate about that, because that's all also important information to consider. But I wanted to get this video out there. I think a lot needs to be addressed, and I think I not only do I take this, but I want to encourage it. Everyone, you guys, the Irish people, just record everything that happens, right? Whether you're protesting peacefully or whatever, just record it. Evidence is important, and this is a monumental moment that is proving that. Because all the evidence is coming out to prove that this government, this system, this whole bloody thing is as corrupt as can be. The evidence that is there to back that, and for basically those points to be based off of such evidence, is basically contributing and corroborating to the fact that the evidence and the actions of getting evidence in such manners is imperative. It is absolutely imperative to such a case. It is monumentally important to founding how we can basically prove our points in saying that this is a corrupt system, the government is wrong. And I'm sorry if this is all sounding botched here. I'm kind of tired at the moment. I'm just fucking wrecked with everything that's going on. My throat's a bit dry as well. But yeah, no, that's really all I have to say. I hope that the point got through to you. Do record, do get more evidence, do call it out for what it is. It is a corrupt system, it is fucked up. And have a good day. Keep protesting, Ireland. We need this. This is a once in a lifetime moment, right? You're probably not going to get this again, and we need to stop it. Europe as well. Hop on the train, hop on board here. I can see France and stuff are protesting about similar issues, but we need everyone in Europe, right? Because this will affect everyone in Europe with a man like that's in power right now. Believe me, mark my words. We need action, and we need it now. That's all. I'm out. Goodbye. Oh, by the way, fun fact. Green vehicle diesel in Ireland is basically white vehicle diesel in Ireland, except it's secretly technically a tax, because basically white vehicle diesel in Ireland is basically more expensive than green vehicle diesel in Ireland. The only difference is green vehicle diesel in Ireland is basically not for your typical vehicles, not for any normal means of transport like private cars or anything like that, more so for agricultural use. So stuff like, let's say tractors, or basically something like, I think a fucking lawnmower or some shit like that. I don't know, just stuff, agricultural stuff. But it can be used in cars and vehicles, and it can work perfectly fine. It is basically majority, if not entirely, or at least was, of the same ingredients. They may have changed some things now, but it's still dyed and marked by chemicals to be unique from the white, and it still works perfectly fine with Irish vehicles anyways. There is no issues running it in an Irish vehicle, but of course, because of the law, you can be fined and imprisoned for using green vehicle diesel in Ireland. I say vehicle diesel because apparently there's fucking differences online, and if I don't use specific terms, but by technicality, I'll say that, or just green diesel, just to appropriate for you guys out there. But yeah, that's just another fun fact for you there. Oh, by the way, one other thing I wanted to bring up as an extra bit to the video. Notice how a lot of the people who are working in the Irish Defence Force and in the Garda, Irish Defence Force is the IDF, by the way, for anyone who didn't know. That is what that acronym stands for. But notice how a lot of them are basically foreigners, it seems like. Look at the commissioner, for example, who has apparently turned out to be Canadian.
Over the last 2 days, An Garda Síochána has engaged extensively with those taking part in fuel protests across the country to facilitate peaceful protest while protecting public safety. In line with our tradition of policing by consent, An Garda Síochána has been operating on the basis of the 4 E's: engage, explain, encourage, and enforce. Yesterday, we advised protesters that they were severely impacting on the lives of people, particularly emergency workers, those who need to attend hospital, and workers. Despite our significant and prolonged engagement, which has included explaining and encouraging protesters to facilitate free movement of traffic, it is clear that some people have significantly escalated an already difficult situation by targeting critical infrastructure such as fuel depots and refineries. These are no longer protests, they are blockades. These blockades are putting at risk supplies of food, fuel, clean water, and animal feed. These are critical for the nation and its people. This is not tolerable, and it is against the law. The willful obstruction of public roads and the movement of vehicles and persons are offences under various statutes, including the Public Order Act and Road Traffic Acts. As part of our well-established graduated policing response in dealing with protests, An Garda Síochána is now moving to an enforcement phase in relation to those impacting on critical infrastructure unless they desist and disperse from these blockades. An Garda Síochána is advising protesters to immediately cease blockades of such critical national infrastructure or face the full rigors of the law.
How funny is that? And notice as well how a lot of the Gardaí and possibly IDF are coming in dressed in these black uniforms. It's almost like it's being reminiscent of a particular group that used to discriminate against and fight against the Irish back in the day. Wink, wink. You know who I'm talking about. The black and fucking tans. Yeah. Oh my god, guys. It's almost like they're trying to incite violence against the Irish people. Like they're trying to agitate us. Wow. Go fucking figure.
Well, it's now the 4th day of those fuel blockades, leading to petrol stations running dry, travel chaos and heightened tensions. As you heard there, today government ministers met with established representative associations to discuss a package of supports. However, 4 fuel protesters were refused entry. We can speak now to the Taoiseach and Minister for Finance, Simon Harris. And Minister Taoiseach, thanks indeed for joining us.
Thank you, Tommy.
On 6-1. That meeting is still ongoing, where discussions were underway on fuel supports. Can you tell me what will those supports be?
So I'm very grateful to all the representative bodies who've engaged really constructively and earnestly with the government today. I think those talks are going well. I think it's likely that further intensive engagement over the weekend, perhaps in smaller groups, will be required. And we're looking at a range of measures. We're very clear, and we've always been clear as a government, that further specific supports for key sectors of the economy, particularly around agri-food and supply chains, would be required. In the past, we've looked at things like how we can get direct funding schemes to our farmers. We've looked at things around credit supply lines, cash flow, and also at a European level, both myself and the Taoiseach working to see if we can get any flexibility around the Energy Tax Directive to give more scope to do more on that as well. So we're working at a range of issues.
Duty, basically.
We've already brought about reductions in excise duties. Is there more that could be done in that space that would require a degree of European agreement too? So a lot of intensive work going on. All of this is going on. We have heard the pain people are feeling, but the blockade has to end, and we've got to engage in a proper democratic way.
Is there a value on that package of measures that you're considering? Is it in the tens of millions, hundreds of millions?
So look, I want to be respectful to the talks that are underway, but it will be substantial and significant. And it is aimed to try and keep key sectors of our economy going at a time when there are real challenges. People are to the pin of their collar, people are under a lot of pressure. We want to make progress. We've been engaging extensively for quite a period of time now with key sectors, and that engagement will go through the weekend.
The protesters that are blockading key parts of the country at the moment want a price cap. Are you going to introduce that?
Price caps, quite frankly, don't work. What a price cap doesn't mean that the issue magics it away. What it means is the price transfers from the forecourt to the taxpayer. Lots of countries have tried this. It doesn't work. It doesn't make a difference, and it costs very, very significant amounts, potentially billions of euro over the course of a year as well. So we don't believe that's a way to proceed. But there are other ways, and I'd like to focus with representative bodies on what we can do. We've had enough of what we can't. What can we do together to get through this?
Well, why can't you allow the protesters to be involved in those discussions? Why were they refused entry today?
Because the position of the government has been crystal clear from day one. We engage with the democratically elected representative bodies, and many of them in the room today. And also, we can't have a situation where we're engaging with people who are blockading key parts of our country. We're trying to come up with economic solutions at the same time while blockades are causing significant economic damage to Ireland. And I've got to be very...
The Sinn Féin leader, if I could put this point to you, she tweeted in the past short while describing the situation as an absolute shambles, saying that the government is escalating the crisis instead of doing your job. And she said it's time to pick up the phone.
Well, that's lovely rhetoric, but I mean, pick up the phone to who? To pick up the phone to who? Who is the democratically elected leader of this?
There was four of them that turned up outside the department today. Yeah. You didn't have to pick up the phone. You could have let them in.
We live in a parliamentary democracy. We engage with the groups, but the people engaged in the blockade today, I've got to be honest, and I say to them, I say to their loved ones who'd like them home too, please, please step back from the brink. The economic damage that this blockade is doing to the country is real. I'm hearing from small businesses across the country running low on supplies. I'm hearing from our health services about cancer treatments that can't go ahead, missed hospital appointments, home health care that can't get out. We are at a very dangerous economic moment. We're showing good faith here, engaging intensively on a significant and substantial package. The blockade needs to end now, though.
Well, your own TD Peter Roche has said he's disappointed that these four protesters were not allowed in. And the trouble is now, it seems that they're more emboldened. There's reports of even more people turning up at the Galway depot. It seems like it's going to be even harder to resolve this.
No, the laws of the land will be applied. Nobody has a right to obstruct people's free movement in this country. Nobody has a right to decide who gets free passage. I've heard alarming things over the course of the last day. Certain people who are not elected by anyone will decide who can move around, what can get in and out of a depot. At a time of a global energy crisis, this country has adequate fuel supplies, but we cannot get those fuel supplies to key parts of our economy and society because of the illegal actions of some. The protest, the blockade needs to end. We will continue to do our job calmly, step by step, coming forward with practical measures to help people who are under pressure. But please, please step back from the brink.
It's now day 4 of this demonstration, and if you're not talking directly to them, well then why haven't you moved them? Because many people will point out that this is not how other groups in society have protested in the past on this scale, in this way. People will point out if they were to leave their cars parked in the middle of O'Connell Street, they will be moved swiftly. Why were these protesters not removed on day one?
So the Gardaí obviously went through operational processes and sought to engage. But let me be very clear. We cannot and will not tolerate a situation where fuel cannot get to key parts of our country. And as people will see, there are now active guard operations underway. They will continue. We want this to be resolved calmly. We want people to know they've been heard, they have made their point, and now is the time to step back. But if people choose not to step back, the laws of the land will be applied.
And are you confident that actually the Gardaí and with the help of the Defence Forces that they actually have the capabilities of moving these demonstrators?
I am, but you know what I'm also confident of? That people in this country are decent and full of common sense. And I know there's a lot of emotion at the moment. I know there's a lot of stress. I really do. People are to the pin of their collar. But we're appealing now to the decency of people as well. The laws are there. The laws will be enforced. Action will be taken to make sure fuel can flow around this country at this moment of grave economic concern. But I'm also appealing to the basic decency of people and their families. It is time to go home. We will work our way through this. We hear you in terms of the significant pressure certain sectors are under, but everybody's in this country is under pressure in different ways. Please don't think your pressure is more important than a cancer patient trying to get to an appointment, somebody trying to get dialysis, someone trying to get a blood transfusion, or a small business trying to operate. Schools are back next week. It's time for a bit of common sense here.
On that point, are you afraid that lives are at risk here? Because we saw a very concerning statement in the past hour from the National Emergency Coordination Group in terms of how ambulance and fire engines are going to keep operating when so many of the service stations around the country are running dry.
I'm extremely concerned. I don't think the word protest adequately captures what is happening in our country now. This is an extremely dangerous moment, economically dangerous, economically damaging, but beyond that, damaging in terms of the running of our emergency services. People have made their point, they've been heard, we're under no illusion about the pressures they're under, we're engaging with rep bodies in good faith, we'll keep at it over the weekend, more help and support will come, but we will do that through the normal, calm, democratic way. Please step back from the brink.
Tánaiste Simon Harris, thanks indeed for joining us on 6-1.
Simon Harris, all talk but no action. Right now he is Ministering for Finance in Ireland, and he is the Tánaiste of Ireland, was the Taoiseach of Ireland. Also, recordedly and notoriously known for saying to have, over 7 years ago, treat children with scoliosis. All of them would no longer have this issue within 4 months. This was back in 2017. And he did not fulfill such promises, to nobody's surprise. At least to nobody's surprise now. Because if you were surprised back then, you certainly wouldn't be now, because this man is as evil, as much of a snake politician as you'll find out there. He's a confident liar. That is what he is. Anything he says, even if he makes it sound honest, there will be no action behind it because it will be all talk. So don't believe anything he says he will do, because he won't. He is a waffler, a nonsense talker, a bullshitter in such regards. And to be quite honest, you can take into account all that has happened, even compare it to what he says here, to know that he's still talking bullshit and waffling even now. And you can mark what promises he will make here and account for the fact that he will not fulfill such promises, because he is the master of breaking promises. He loves to break promises. He is the overlord of broken promises, to be frank. And Harvey Morrison was at 12 years old, died of scoliosis, suffering long-term with scoliosis, and never got treated for it. And this all falls on Simon Harris for essentially allowing this to happen. Even when he was in office, he did not take action to prevent it, and I can't imagine that this is the only case. This is what Simon Harris is notorious for, who Simon Harris, by the way, could have prevented. Simon Harris, notorious for Irish, mainly, children dying under Tusla care, under medical care, and under government care. Yes, all because of Simon not doing his job right. And this is the man who's still in office today. Wow. And they say the votes are not rigged. Yeah. Well, even so, I hope all of Ireland is listening. And I hope you remember never to vote men like this in again. And as I said earlier in the video, always record evidence and make sure to upload it, because it is very important in such regards to proving when a despot government, something such as tyrannical and authoritarian as this, and is going out of control now with their power trips and disillusions of grandeur, are coming to be. It can all be prevented much sooner with the people power showing from the responses from the people, which is very good, by the way. We need more of that, and we will get more of that with more of the evidence being uploaded and shown and argued against these wrongdoers and liars who would dare say or believe otherwise, because the truth matters, and this is tantamount to basically substantiating that in essence. And that's all I have to say, really. There will be an extra bit after this about Jim O'Callaghan, and that will be all. Then I'll be gone. So, goodbye. Oh, and I heard Simon Harris also said that there would be a possible loss of billions. The reason that we have so much money is due to inflation, if anything. And the Irish people have said enough is enough. They're being priced out of the economy because the economy is too inflated. The GNI, the global national income, does not align or balance out with the GDP, the gross domestic product. And that is mainly to do with things like the taxes and the government's price gouging. And of course, other things as well, like the big tech industry and their influences over Ireland. But it is not as much as them as it is mainly, of course, the taxes from our corrupt government. So if anything needs to happen here, it needs to be the government cuts the taxes in appreciation of Irish people. And yes, a few billion will be lost, as they should be. The economy has to drop down. It has to balance out. It's too inflated. It's as simple as that. You have 12.5 billion, as you've said yourself, Taoiseach Simon Harris. 12.5 billion or such as around that even. I'm not sure. You are the Taoiseach. You've said this. It is on the Parliament, the Irish Parliament, Leinster House website, in your own writing, in your own words, accounted under your name, that you said that it was around 12.5 billion surplus. And that's not even including TD salaries or anything else. That's just surplus. That is absolutely crazy. The economy has to balance out, and if it needs to come down for it to balance out, which it seemingly does need to do that, then that needs to happen. Do not try to excuse this. We had peaceful protests as well, and there's enough video evidence of that. There's not video evidence of cancer patients being blocked, of people needing blood transfusion or any of this shit, or missing appointments. There's no evidence of that out there. These are all made. Show the evidence. There's more evidence of people being allowed to pass through in transport. You are a liar, a confident liar. I hope people understand this. Remember to question everything to see which side is truly right, because the truth does fucking matter. This guy is a snake and a rat. Traitor to the Irish people. Shouldn't be in office. Should never be in office. But the fact that he is in office today is just, it's baffling, honestly. Oh, and one other thing. Jim O'Callaghan has said that apparently there are agitators in this protest going around, or just people in the protest who are not protesting peacefully or whatever, right? basically no good doers, some bullshit like that, right? Whatever he wants to describe it as. They're basically going around and he's basically claiming, saying that they are people who are, I don't know, agents of fucking Tommy Robinson or some bullshit like that. That's basically what he's insinuating or trying to say, is what it seems. It's what he said on RT News when he was interviewed. Sorry.
You said today that you think that there are malign influences here.
Well, I've seen online that people like Tommy Robinson or Stephen Yaxley Lennon, to give him his correct name, are seeking to advance and advocate that the Irish protests are supporting their political agenda. And I'm sure most of the protesters would be shocked to think that they are being manipulated or their message is being hijacked by people like him. So we need to recognise that.
I'm sure many of them would say that the demonstration started long before he started commenting on it.
Maybe so, but now people are seeking to manipulate them and other forces are getting involved. And I would urge the people who were well-intentioned maybe in terms of the start of the protest, they wanted to peacefully protest. They've made their point, we've heard it, but now could they stop damaging the interests of the people in this country?
And what I would like to say about that is, Jim O'Callaghan, do you have evidence of such claims? Because not once have I heard Tommy Robinson's name come up about anywhere or anything in this protest until you've just stated it. Isn't that funny how that works? And of course, obviously, we would have heard people talk about it after because you said it. It was obviously mainly focused on you saying it, because the reality is there's no real evidence that Tommy Robinson has anything to do with this protest or has any involvement in this protest to begin with. So, again, I have to ask you, do you have any evidence regarding such claims? Because it seems like it's just completely blown out of proportion, just nonsense talk. Like, what are you talking about? You know? Is there really any evidence to such a claim? And yeah, that's all I have to say about that. Jim O'Callaghan also said on RT News that this was all to do with basically the US and Iran war, or basically what he was trying to say was that this was based on that, and that's why this whole crisis even began to begin with. But as I already proved earlier, with the evidence and metrics shown, that is a load of bullshit. So you could clearly see the propaganda at first hand here being spouted out by political heads doing nothing but trying to deceive the people, because they are deceitful pricks. Deceitful pricks, deceitful bastards, rats, snakes, the whole fucking lot. That's what they are. That's all there is to it.
They remain in place so far. It's going to be hard to avoid clashes here, isn't it?
Well, no one wants to see clashes here. No one wants to see, and everyone recognises the pressures people are under as a result of the increase in fuel prices, as a result of the Iranian war. But we need to be recognise the fact that the government is trying to deal with this and is responding to it. But nobody wants to see violence. But also, a government can't sit idly by and see critical infrastructure blockaded, which is damaging the health and welfare of Irish people.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, that marks the end of this video. And I would like to say, just as a final note, that this video, this over an hour long now video, has been quite a journey diving into and critiquing our Irish government, despotic rulers, supreme leaders, if you will, tyrannical, authoritarian figureheads who are just disillusioned in this grandeur, power, fucking trip overdose. God fucking knows, right? They need to be taken out of office. They do not represent the Irish people. They are not Republicans. The people have spoken, the Irish people of Ireland have spoken. They do not want these people in office. and they should be taken out of office, sending the army against the Irish people as a response to peaceful protesting, which, by the way, in all fairness, it did escalate, but it escalated because the Irish government does not know how to negotiate peacefully. They're the ones who sent the army, they're the ones who sent the Gardaí. They did not agree to meetings. That's the real reason why any blockades, if any, had ever occurred to begin with. And that is who you should complain to, even those who say or have complained with the protesters. No, it is the Irish government's fault because it is their job to do and run the country properly. This is supposed to be the Republic of Ireland. Remember that. It's not Republican. It's not ran like a Republican, a Republic country. It is run like a communistic and dictatorial country that is just fucking wrong in so many ways, given the current history that you could just scroll through and look through yourself. It is corrupt to the fucking core because of this government, which we do not want and do not agree that represent us. And yet somehow there's believers out there that the votes aren't rigged. Like, come on, man. We need evidence on. We definitely need more evidence on the whole voting shit, because even looking at ballots, right, is very. I don't think it's possible for anyone, any sojo, to just get a job, or anyone really to just get a job, and handling the papers and ballots, the basically the votes and stuff. Now, of course, it goes to Leinster House anyways. It gets managed there, but people who collect them in these schools and campuses and colleges and stuff, you're not. It's not easier. Do you know what I mean? Those jobs, you don't just get those jobs. Most of the times, the people who are in those positions, who have those jobs before any paper goes to the Parliament House, the Leinster House, where the votes, of course, as said in writing, would be managed. The people who have those jobs typically vary to be seeming in the age of the boomer generation, mostly of which are females, and are dressed well. I don't know if that is, like, I know I'm stereotyping a little, but I don't often see anyone other than that who are handling ballot papers, which is just a bit odd, given the history we know of these boomer generation, especially the ladies, and what they tend to agree and disagree with in terms of politics and their ideals and stuff. And I'm not saying this for every boomer lady or anyone of that generation, but I am saying for quite a majority of them, it is quite known that they are not the same as everyone else, and they are a bit odd, strange, politically speaking, compared to everyone else. They do think in a manner that, of course, it's possibly due to their comeuppance as well. There is more history on this. I'm pretty sure there's other videos I've seen documented as well, which I'll try and link below, of course, where other people explain it. But there's stuff like how they think it's a bit delusional, but they think that certain people can get along together, and there's no such thing as segregating, and just because the time they come up in, there's some bullshit like that. I don't know. It's weird. But it's not how the world works, realistically. We all know it. And these people in power, by the way, which they came up at a very lucky stage, because the economy was down, and they were able to take advantage of that. They were rationing, and they were able to take advantage of that, and that's why so many of them have a lot of money now, are in power now. And it's not even mostly due to their intelligence, but more so due to luck and the time period they were born in. But it is truly an idiosyncrasy in a way, which is funny. But yeah, that's all I have to really say about it, because it's a fucking joke. System needs improving, and there needs to be reformation, and there definitely seemingly needs to be some sort of a revolution. Hopefully sooner than later, because now would be probably the best time, to be honest. That's not just for Ireland now. That is for Europe, and maybe possibly majority of the world at this fucking point, because like look at the people in power. And you have the fucking Epstein list and shit too. Like, there's so much you can go into. And by the way, there are people in TD stuff here who are on that fucking list as well. So just letting that one be out there. And with that said, guys, I'm gonna end it there. I hope you enjoyed this video. There will be links below in the description if you want to watch them for extra details, extra content, and extra information. Anything, especially which I had already mentioned here, like with the boomer stuff, with the Fabian Society, stuff like that, because that's all pretty interesting stuff. You should check it out. It is very informative, and it might help you understand better what's going on at the moment, and maybe help you with the groundworks for building more theories and hypotheses and hypotheses or whatever, and to figure out and perhaps even collect evidence in confirming what is actually and or really going on. So yeah, with that said, I'm gonna get out of here. Peace out, have a good one, and good day.